Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is one of my author's chats of the week. And as I wait for the notifications to go out, we'll be talking about, once my co-host joins me, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. Let's see if I can see him. Yes. And I apologize. I have pollen allergies right now, so I am a little sniffly today. It just goes with the time of year, I guess. Let's see if he sees my invite. Hopefully, then we'll get things going. Let's see. Then, okay, I see you here, so. Here we go. Always takes a moment. Hello, hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm not going to complain about anything. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you as well. And before we get things kind of really rocking and rolling, I'll let you do the basic intro of who you are and what you write, because you're my co-host today. Yay.
Absolutely. No, I again appreciate you for the opportunity. For those who don't know, my name is Eddie Dee Williams. I am the author of The Affinity Theory. Book one of the Affinity Saga is an adult superhero romance thriller. And in my book, Malcolm, Simone, and their superpowered teammates have come together to take down a maniacal force of darkness who's hell-bent on wiping out the power population and murking one of their own. This is book one of the Affinity Saga. Book two comes out in July, entitled Echoes. Certainly excited about that as well. I write adult superhero romance thrillers, and been writing since September of 2021. When I'm not writing, I'm a marriage and family therapist by trade, and so I do online therapy with several different clients from various backgrounds. Married, 2 kids, babysit 2 dogs every day. Those are not my dogs; they are my daughter's dogs. I just babysit them every now and then. 40 years old, hail from Valdosta, Georgia. And I just spend most of my days just watching TV shows and critiquing how great or bad they are, and then being told to write a book better than that. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. And as a person who's living in Georgia and actually from Georgia as well, hello, my.
Yeah.
But let me actually, before I side tangent, because I will always side tangent over a variety of things. I have so many things that pop in my head. But going back to, I guess, your books, because it sounded almost like you were inspired to write them because of, again, watching things and thinking, I could do this better. But what was your actual inspiration for your book series?
Yeah. So, big picturing it, I've been a Power Ranger since I was 5 years old. Ever since I watched the Power Rangers, I watched the Green Ranger mollywop on the Power Rangers for five episodes. Like, how you get kicked out your own Megazord? Make that make sense. But I was like, I'm all in. That's my guy. I'm rocking with Tommy from now to the end. And so Green Ranger was my boy. But I love watching Power Rangers, X-Men, Gargoyles, Legends of the Hidden Temple, you name it, I was all up in it. And so between that, growing up in my childhood, in order to stay from taking naps at my grandma's house, you'd have to watch the soap operas. And so Young and the Restless, Bold and Beautiful, Guiding Light, One Life to Live, Another World, Days of Our Lives. I knew all about some Victor Newman and all the struggles he had going on with his various girlfriends and whatnot. And so I've been an eclectic story, just enjoyer of stories my whole life. I can watch any and everything and be thoroughly entertained by everything. And so over time, about 3-4 years ago, my best friend at work and I were watching Titans together on Max. And I could not stand how they were doing the characters. I was just like, bro, like, this is not what I signed up for when I said I wanted to watch this show. This is getting on my nerves. Every week I was critiquing the mess out of it. Like, you know what? Nope. If it were me, I would have done this. I would have done this. I would have done this. And so she was like, so why don't you write something then? I was like, huh? Do what? What? And so for 3 weeks, she just kept, have you written something yet? Have you written something yet? have you written something yet? So to get her to leave me alone, I started writing. And that's how the Affinity saga came to be. It's a combination of again, every superhero story I've ever heard, every cop show I've ever watched, every drama show, 90210, Melrose Place, Ally McBeal, West Wing, Law and Order, all those types of shows, all mashed together as one seamless story about this team of superheroes who have come together to defend their city against the forces of darkness.
So what made you, and I apologize, I have like a lot of allergies, so if it looks like I'm crying or I'm sniffing,
no, it's about that time. It's about that time. My daughter's dealing with allergies right now too, so I understand.
So forewarning, but what made you decide to write a superhero book aimed more for adult readers versus young adult or children's or whatever? Because obviously, if you started being inspired by stories and characters from anything from all the way down to now I'm drawing a blank of all the children's shows, you just literally listed like a million of them. But like going back to Power Rangers and everything like that, what made you decide, I want to actually aim for adults versus aim for more maybe a younger readership?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of the young adult stories that I've read and heard over time, to me, this is just me in my house. If you've seen one, you've seen them all, in the sense that, how do I, deal with the fact that I have powers for the first time, or I'm falling in love for the first time, or, those sort of kind of coming of age elements. I'm 37 years old. I'm far removed from all of those things. And a lot of the stories that I've been hearing from the therapy that I was doing were more on the adult side of things. And so for me, a lot of what I currently had at that time and what I currently deal with now is more of I've lived the life a little bit. I've got a little bit of experience, a lot of experience under my belt. And so what I'm really dealing with is a lot of trying to backtrack, a lot of origin story, a lot of, how do I overcome the things that I have currently going on in my life? And so the characters that I was able to then write about were an extension of some of the therapy stuff that I did, some of the stuff that some of my friends have gone through, and being able to tell those stories in a way to where it leaves a lot of growth for the characters in terms of, the looking back and figuring out how things came to be. How do I, and how am I able to move in a different direction now? And so what you get to experience in the story is a lot of, origins. How did I become the person that I am? How did I become a master of my powers rather than watching someone use their powers for the first time? Like, I love Tracy Deon's Legendborn series. I yelled at that book so much because I'm just like, all these powers, can somebody start using them, please? Like, what are we doing here? Like, can somebody snap on somebody one time? And it just never happened the way that I wanted to. And I'm like, dude, all these powers we got, can somebody go ham one time? So I really wanted my characters to be able to flex. Like, no, I've been using my powers for 15 years. I've been using my powers for 20 years. I've been powered since I was like 11 years old. And so it would then read a lot more colossal for me in the books that I was wanting to write, because I wanted those battles to really stand out. Again, going back to all the stories that I was seeing as of late, where it's like you got on the Titans, buddy, you got all these powers. Why are you not using them? Like, it wouldn't even been no show. Wouldn't even been no show if you just would have used your powers one good time on this dude instead of running scared. And so that's what it was for me. I wanted to be able to tell stories that were more palatable for an adult audience, while simultaneously allowing the story itself to be such to where it makes sense for these characters to be flexing as hard as they are, because they've been using their powers for like 15, 20 years. And so it wouldn't make sense for them to not be able to not be flexing the way that they do in the book.
Okay. Now, also going on this, the idea of this is aimed for more an adult audience, because you get to delve deeper into their their storylines, their evolution, their maybe, coping abilities for whatever they're facing. Are you how dark versus not so dark are you? Are you the side of like the boys or the Watchmen? Or are you a little more kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Because
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
adult superheroes, you can get very, very dark, or you don't have to list that way and kind of have it in more of an in between, not necessarily.
Yeah. No, so what I tell people all the time is that my book is like SWAT with superpowers,
Ooh,
NCIS with superpowers,
okay.
FBI with superpowers. And so, sometimes those shows can have those kind of dark elements, but it's very serialized, very, this is kind of the formula of how things are going. And so there will be times where there'll kind of be like a dark story that kind of starts to develop, but then we move right off of that. And we did that because the saga itself is going to be 9 books deep. And so we don't want to spend so much time on a particular element, but we want to highlight it because it's going to show up later. And so if you think, again, it's SWAT with powers, or NCIS with powers, or the Rookie even with powers, that's kind of the cadence of the books. And so it'll have some dark themes at some point, that'll kind of begin to highlight as the saga progresses, but it'll never be so heavy and dark where you feel like you're watching The Boys. I really wanted it to feel like you're watching a CBS or a Fox or NBC show, with some people who got some superpowers. And again, because everybody's got powers, it's not like we're focusing on that element. It's just, again, SWAT with powers.
I love that. I see a couple comments popping up as we've been talking. One says, halfway through Eddie's book, amazing writing. So you have a fan in the wings right there. Also have a pop up saying, did you ever check out Super Sentai? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, so I've never checked out Super Sentai. For me, I'm more of I'm watching cop shows, watching the MCU, watching DC. So a lot of those, kind of anime elements, I've seen bits and pieces, but at the time where I could have got really engrossed in, like Law and Order took my life over. I love in Law and Order, boy. Like I'm telling you, like the old school Jerry Orbach and gosh, who Captain Cragen's whatever his real name is. Those boys, they put me in a chokehold. And then watching ER with George Clooney in those early days, like those shows really got me. Rizzoli and Isles, those shows got me. And so there was a time where I could have been heavy on like the Dragon Ball and stuff like that. But those cop shows, man, and probably credit to my parents because they were both cops, right? And so that's where I kind of just naturally gravitated in that direction where it's like, oh yeah, Law and Order, yes, this detective shows and stuff. That's probably why Batman is my favorite DC character, because he's more detective than he is a powered person. But yeah, there was a time where I could have got grabbed into that, but Law and Order really just took me by the horns, and I just never let go of it.
Okay, so looking at I have yet to read your books. It's now on my TBR list, but I have yet to read your books, and based on your cover, it looks like a very large cast of characters. Now, I know when you're taking, again, the superhero kind of point of view, there are options of single POV versus, your big cast of Avengers kind of thing. So what made you choose your route, and how many characters do you have in your 9 books?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So for me, I love team dynamics. Been big on that. When you think about your cop shows, or you think about your good comedy shows, for instance, big cast of characters, lots of room for all the characters to grow. So like one of my favorite shows that I watch reruns of all the time is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You got 9 characters, got all these arcs that you get to see. You see them grow, mature, progress, and all the things. That's always been big for me. I love watching team dynamics. I love watching teams grow. I've always wanted to be a part of teams. And so, working in the prison system for 7 years, for instance, like our therapy unit was a team. And so, I was the head of the crisis stabilization unit. We had others who were like part of like what we would call oh gosh, I'm forgetting. That's how long I haven't worked there anymore. Your level 2 inmates, level 3 inmates, you'd have teams that would be working on those things. And so so team dynamics has always been something that I just love. I love team dynamics. And so for me, that's what just reflects in the book itself. Again, Power Rangers, X-Men, those were teams. Yeah. The Avengers is a team. And so I always love those kinds of dynamics. Additionally, as a therapist, I really cut my teeth on family dynamics and relationship dynamics. And so being able to watch how 2 characters are interacting with each other, how 3 characters are interacting with each other, how 5 characters are interacting with each other, that's been something that I've always just been very observant of over the course of my own personal life, as well as the lives of those who I've had the pleasure of talking to. And so those elements really was an opportunity for me to let those things shine. Additionally, I was very blessed and fortunate to be able to sit in the room with a lot of different types of people, particularly my Black women. As a therapist, I'm already outnumbered about 10-1 in therapy as it is. So working at the prison system, I've worked with a lot of women. And I would want to I'd eat lunch. I'd see them in there like, oh, my bad. I'm going to let y'all do your thing. And they're like, no, come join us. I'm like, you really want me to sit in on these conversations? Because I'm not, I know what y'all be talking about. I don't have to be a part of this thing. And so they were like, no, come on in. And so I'm in the room where it happens, and I'm taking notes. So this is what they say when they say this, and she says this, and that's right, girl, and that's how they say it, and stuff like that. And so you get to see a lot of that really shine in the book, because I was privileged to be in those rooms. And again, I wasn't trying to, overstay my welcome or trying to invade those spaces and try to take over. It was really an opportunity for me to sit and learn. And that shines forth in a lot of the interactions that you see within the books. And so to that end, we've got 7 main characters in the team itself in book 1. That's going to expand over time as it unfolds. But you also have the bad guys too. They have story arcs. And so it's not just watching the good guys and watching their progression. You're seeing the bad guys and their progression too. You get to see the bosses in their progression. You get to see some of the intelligence officers that are intelligence analysts rather, who are a very vital part of the elite unit doing their work, and get to see their progression. So there's a lot of different characters that are scattered across the entire saga. And because we have all these books that we're writing, it gives an opportunity for the readers to identify with someone within the book, and now you get to watch that person grow throughout the saga. A lot of people have really gravitated toward Alexia, from all the people that have been talking to me thus far. Like, Alexia's their favorite, and I'm like, guys, there's so much. I can't wait for you guys to get to where her book is, because dude, like, everybody who's liking her, like, y'all are really gonna enjoy this particular book when it comes out, because it's literally her book. And so it's really awesome to be able to see how people identify, relate to, and connect with different people within the book, because of all the things that I know about where these stories are headed. And so yeah, we really wanted to make sure that people could identify with these characters and give everyone an opportunity to feel like that's my person and watch them grow over time.
I love that. And before I get some of these comments that are popping up, that I will forget. So do you find it hard to keep track of all your different story arcs for all your different characters, because each one has, their own development, their own progress, their own struggles and challenges? So do you find it hard to keep track, or you
Well, for me, it's not so much that it's difficult. It's the process of writing, for me, what I really try to do is make sure that I have the main storyline intact. Like that, if nothing else happens within this book, I want to make sure this main storyline is really where it is. So a lot of my books are really plot driven. They're not character driven. And that gives me then the freedom to start adding character elements into the stories. Like I just got done watching a couple of episodes of FBI before we got on today. And within this is the case we're solving today. They have these little elements that show up within these people's relationships. Right now, Maggie is in the middle of a relationship with this guy. And when the show starts, here's a little piece of their relationship. Oh, they're thinking about moving in together. Then here's the big crime scene for the day. And so now, while we have this little thing kind of hanging out here in outer space, like, oh, so are they going to move in together or not? They spend a whole 30 minutes solving this case. Yep. Some things happen that makes her think about maybe we should move in together, or maybe we should, or don't do. So that by the time they get to the end of the story, now they either get to resolve it or it becomes something that happens that they talk about in a later episode. And so for me, I spend more time making sure that the plot line is intact. So that way I can then start dropping things about relationships into these, into the story, weaving them into the story. So for me, that's why I got a billion journals. Cause I can't keep up with it.
I was wondering.
I can't keep up with it at all. And so that's why I keep a bunch of journals. If I get an idea, I'll dump it in my phone or I'll put it in a journal. So that way, I don't have to hold on to it. And as the story progresses, once we're done with that initial draft, I can go back and say, okay, so now what do I want my readers to know about them? What do I want my readers to know about Duncan? What do I want them to know about Simone? What do I want them to know about Malcolm in this moment? So that way the storyline doesn't get so convoluted to where we can't drop those elements in, but we don't neglect the character development for the sake of the plot. Some of the reactions that I've gotten from some people who've read the book have been like, I can't stand this person, or I can't stand how they did this. And I'm like, good. I can't wait for you to read book 2. It's like, that's exactly what I want you to feel. So that way when book 2 shows up and we get more time to expand on why she is this way or why he is this way, you'll be like, oh, that's why they did. Exactly. So it always excites me when people are like, I can't stand how they like, I know you can't. And I made it that way. So that way when you get to book 2 or book 3 or whatever, you get to kind of see more of the of those character developments in that way.
That's fantastic. And okay, I'm gonna pause from that and get some of these comments coming through. See one saying, oh, reading my books. Thank you, Thomas. And Eddie, you're up next. So there's a future reader for you. One saying, okay, Daniel's asking, do you know anything about Puck from Shakespeare? I actually was in Midsummer Night's Dream once, so yes, I'm familiar with Puck. My background in Celtic and actual Fey lore is less solid than I want. I am looking into that for a future book, but if you're going specifics of Fey lore, I don't know. I don't know if you know anything about Puck from Shakespeare, Eddie.
I'll be honest with you, I don't. But again, that's because I'm not as avid a reader as I am a viewer of TV. Yeah. And so a lot of my stuff comes from the TV world.
Viewer of stories, and they come from different ways. And that's the thing is when people are like, I don't like books, so I'm like, well, you like stories because you like watching movies or shows.
Right.
In a different way. Someone wrote that. And now
yes.
So it's your story.
Exactly.
Comment for you saying your first book's influence reminded them of X-Men meets SWAT. So kind of going back to what you're saying. Villains can be more interesting than heroes. That is very true. Hello. I have a shout out from Broomball Dude saying hello to us and asking you what aspect of world building is your favorite?
So two things. One, the character developments. Again, going back to being able to establish the relationships and the dynamics between the teams. That has always been very exciting for me. once you start reading the affinity theory, for instance, you'll see the good guys aren't the only ones that are in a team. The bad guys are in a team too. And so you get to see the reactions and the banter and the conflicts and those sort of things. So that type of world building is really where I cut my teeth in the initial writing. So when my alpha reader first got a hold of the affinity theory, they told me, dude, you're not giving us enough of the visual aspect of the writing process. You're giving us a lot of conversations. And I'm like, yeah, I that's what I do. And she's like, yeah, but I can't see your book. So if I can't see it, I'm not going to want to read it. And so that helped me to understand, to help, what do I want my people to feel? What I want them to read and all those sort of things. And so for me, again, the relationships are really where I cut my teeth. But I've learned over the past 3 years how to get much better at helping people to be able to visualize what I want them to see versus what do I want to leave to the imagination. And so that's been a very rewarding challenge for me, as I was trying to cut down on the words. Every time I gave it to somebody, they're like, "Dog, you need about 10,000 more." I'm like, "Wait, what? No, I don't want more words. I want less. I put too many words in the book." And so, but it all worked itself out to really create the world that we get to see in Uri City. And so, again, it's those relationship dynamics, man. I really appreciate those sort of things. And then, lastly, as I'm sitting here thinking about it out loud, it's being able to craft the themes into the world itself, where a lot of people have asked questions, like, your whole world is full of Black people, and, where's, the white folk and things like that. And, and I've said in response, my book is, one, a celebration of Blackness, but also, two, it is X-Men. In so much that if you read the book, you get to see it's not about skin tone. It's about powers and no powers. So the same conversations that we have in our world are being had in Euretha, the world that I built, but it's not about skin tone. It's about, do you have powers or do you not have powers? And that's a big element that shows up in book 2. And it's pretty much the driver and the foundation for the whole story. And so being able to take those themes and weave them into the narrative, and it not be off-putting, it not be offensive, and it not be jarring, has been a joy for me. Because again, we get to have a lot of nuanced conversations, much like, again, if you watch SWAT or watch NCIS, they have these nuanced conversations while they're out here trying to chase this buddy down who done, murked about 5 folk. And so, they're having this nuanced conversation while at the same time, where's the bad guy at? And that's, again, how I wanted the book to feel. So that way it's a superhero story, but there's so many opportunities for, gems to be dropped. If you just, give the book a chance to read.
And that's, I think, one of the things that I absolutely love about various works of fiction. I, on the fantasy side, you a little more on the superhero, so I don't know if you qualify yourself as sci-fi.
I don't know.
Kind of like in between. But superhero bubble, and you can have all these real-world conversations, but the way you approach them in a work of fiction, it allows you to have some very deep talks. It's just more approachable sometimes because there are certain themes or certain topics that are very charged and yes. And so it's a good way to be able to express things or explore things is just through fiction writing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely love that. Okay, so when you are writing, here's a question that popped up. How long do you spend on a chapter on average? Chapters vary, and let me answer this one quickly. Chapters vary depending on the amount of pages, the size of the book, the word count. So it's hard to answer, but for an average chapter for you, how long does it typically take you to?
No, you said it, man. It just depends. It depends on what the chapter's about. It depends on how much thought I've given to a chapter. It depends on whether I gotta, whether I'm having writer's block, so to speak. One chapter could take 10 minutes to put some words on and be done. Another could take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I had this one chapter because I'm currently working on book 4. And this one chapter, like, bro, I have not gotten out of it yet because there's so many things that are happening in that chapter, and it's got to make sense. And so for me, once I got to that chapter, and I'm realizing it ain't making sense to me, and I wrote the thing, that it made me have to go and revamp the entire book. So now I'm back on chapter 1. This was like chapter 9 or 10. I'm back at chapter 1 now, rewriting book 4. Because that chapter didn't make sense. So it's really dependent on where you are in the story, what it is that's happening, whether or not you have enough clarity of thought to be able to put it down on paper, and all those things. And so I tell people as advice, don't put a clock on it at all. Like, let the process be what it's going to be, because the book will get written. It's just a matter of whether or not there's enough, clarity and understanding on your part to get it done. But I don't put a clock on it, and it just depends on how much clarity of thought I have about it. Sometimes it could take, a good 30 minutes, like I said, 10 minutes, or it could take 2 weeks. Just depends on what the story and where we are in the story, what's happening with the characters, and if the characters are arguing with me in my head. That's how book 4 got rewritten. They were like, nah, bro, this ain't how we've evolved from this. We are not these people no more. You can't write us like this again. I was like, all right, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back, I'll change it.
It is true. I'm kind of dealing with that right now for a section of the book I'm currently working on, and I spent days trying to slog through a couple chapters, and I came back and started rereading it, and I was like, nope, all this has to be scrapped because this is just not right. And so I had to go. I was just like, okay, starting from scratch again. But sometimes it does take a long time, and then other times, and I also think it depends on the project. Having been fortunate enough to write enough works where there are definitely books that move a lot quicker in the original first draft process, and then others that just take forever.
Listen, and that's how I feel with book 4. It's like, bro, I know how the book ends. Yeah. But it's getting to the end. That's been the challenge. That's been such a challenge because there's so many things that are having to happen in between 3 and 4, to where, again, it's all got to make sense. And so you're absolutely right. Sometimes we can fly through this stuff, but again, because I'm very attentive to wanting to tell a good story that makes sense. Even in this nonsensical world that I've created, I owe it to the readers to be able to give them a seamless story. And so again, that's why I say, I don't put a timetable on it at all. It's going to get done when it gets done. And once it's done, it's done. So, we're just going to make it do what it do.
I love that. Okay, I see we have a very chatty crowd today, which I absolutely love, but I apologize for how long it takes to get to some of your comments and questions. I see one saying, alpha reader for the win. Visual details really add to the story. We love alpha readers, we love beta readers, we love ARC readers. They are all fantastic. Another comment saying, rule number 1, write then edit. Yes, because you don't want to get bogged down too much on the nitty-gritty stuff, or else you'll never get done.
Never get done. Never.
Do that. And hello everybody popping in here. I see someone saying, Siska saying, I define sci-fi versus fantasy by the underlying mechanics of the world. I like that. Okay, I'm skimming down to see if there's, how do you deal with writer's block? There is a question by
Yeah, so that's why I write, my plot lines are in the journal. So that way, if I'm ever stuck somewhere, I can always jump to another part of the book. The part of the book that I know, like the back of my hand. I know this chapter. I know this part of the story like nobody else's business. So I can just jump to that part, write the heck out of that, and then see if I can go back. Yeah. Go backward and see, how do I get my characters from here to here? And so that's how I combat it. I'm a plotter. By the technical standard, and so for me, the entire plot line's already written, and so it's simply a matter of if I'm feeling stuck somewhere, within the writing process and I'm still feeling the gumption to write, I'll then jump to a different part of the book and just write the heck out of that. Other times when I'm just not wanting to write at all, I'll skip to another part of the book process. So as an independent author, we got to do the cover, we got to do, the, distribution, we got to do, marketing, all those things. And so if there's ever a point where I'm feeling like, I'm just not in the mood to write right now, but I want to keep doing things book related, I just jump to another part of it. We started working on, editing book 3, sometime last year, and I got bored with it. I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. And so we jumped off of that and started doing the book cover for book 2. And just like, and over time, after we got done with the book cover, my desire to edit came back. My desire to write came back. And so we jumped on that. And so the beautiful thing about being an independent author is that you are on nobody's timetable but your own. So if you want to set a deadline for yourself, you can, but you're not limited to that. And you can always change it because, again, might be mindful of your reader base and, make sure that you're keeping commitments as much as you can, but you are in the driver's seat. You decide when you want to go to publish, when you want to distribute, where you want to distribute, what your cover is going to look like, all those things. You have total control over the entire process. And so that's why, again, my best advice to everyone is just to take your time and enjoy the process. When it starts to feel like work, that's when you may need to take a step back and be like, is this really, do I need to be doing this right now? Because again, we get burnt out, and sometimes it can feel like, it's more work than it is fun. And when that's the case, again, the beautiful thing about being independent, and nobody's telling me I got to publish this book tomorrow. Ain't nobody here. It's just me.
The only exception, and this is just to be aware of, is if you're a person who sets a pre-order on like a physical platform like Zon.
That's right.
You have to
That's right. Then you got to keep it. Exactly. So that's what you better be ready. Be ready.
And you can always set it out well in advance, or
yes,
after you have it written, then you set it. There are ways to work around it. Just beware. For me, when it comes to block, I've done different things. Kind of like you, I have what I call my rolling notes. So whatever chapter I'm working on, if I'm just inspired to write a certain snippet of dialogue or a scene that comes later on, I'll just write it down below, and I kind of put it more or less in place of all my other weird blocks of text and stuff. And so whenever I get to that chapter, to that point, I can either plug it in or look at it and be like, no, I just went a totally different route, so I don't need it anymore. But it kind of keeps me moving forward when it comes with writing. The only exception is and it's the one I'm struggling with right now still, just a very complex book. It's a 6th book of a series, and there's so much going on. It's my magical multiverse, so there's a lot of things, a lot of characters. And every so often I get bogged down. And I know last year I was getting bogged down so much that, like you said, it wasn't fun anymore. And I was getting very frustrated. So I did a quote, what I'm calling a palate cleanser. And I moved to another project, totally different series, totally different thing. And I knocked out a book super quickly, and it just felt so good. I was like, okay, I can write. It's not that I have writer's block, period. It's that I'm locked in this particular book in this project. Let me get something else done, and I come back to it. And like you said, you're in control of your schedule and going forward. So just be wary of making promises too soon if you're not ready to make them. But
right.
Of being indie. Okay, let's see. We have some great questions. Let me scroll down and see if there's some others. Okay, I think maybe this is for you. Where do you see your stories going after book 7? I'm assuming. Oh, I don't know if that was for me or you, but you have 9 books. So TV, movie, animated series. If you could turn your book series into any of the above, TV show, movie, or animated series, what would you prefer?
Listen, I do it all, man. I do it all. I would do it all. But if I really had it my way, it would be a TV series. And it's because, like I said, my books read like a TV show. Again, SWAT, NCIS, 90210, all your serialized dramas and comedies and those sort of things, my book reads like that. And so ideally, I would love for it to be a show. So that way you really get to see the depth of the character developments and things. When you're watching a movie, the tendency is for something like this to be more plot driven than character driven. And it could you could do it like a Marvel, how they got 50 different movies that come together in a way. But again, there's a lot of things that I think would just go missing as a result of having to try to crunch it into 2.5 hours. And so ideally, I would love for it to be a show just because of how character driven we could make the show to be, so that people could really could fall in love with the characters in the same way that they're falling in love with the visual effects and all that. But I'll take anything, man. I ain't picky. I'm not choosy. I'll take animated, because look, Arcane was great. Castlevania is great. And so if that's what it takes to make this more make this a visual moving story, then I'll take it. I'll take anything. But ideally it would be a show, because the book already reads that way.
I like that. And I think it's something to be aware, like when you're writing a standalone book or maybe a duology, that's probably easier to translate in movies without losing too much, because in movies, you're limited by the max, probably 3.5 hours in the US typically, and even that's long. But if you have a very in-depth book and rich details, that gets lost. When you have a series, you can probably go into far more detail and depth. The downside is that if they need to fill in the gaps and flesh it out in order to round their number of episodes, you're probably going to have stuff alter and change because they're doing that for the point of the show. So there are pros and cons for anything. I would, as like you said, I would be open to any approach, any offer, but I would also look at who's directing it, who's writing it.
Yeah, listen, we here, exactly. I can't just let anybody put this on TV. I need the right folk.
What's the budget?
Know what they know it a little bit to make sure they make this thing pop. That's why, I think about Joss Whedon when he did the Avengers, but also did I can't remember what show it was on the WB. I don't think it was Buffy, but it might have been Buffy. I think it was Buffy. I think about people like him who their shows were character driven, very much about the relationships and those dynamics. I would love for his hands to be a part of something like this. But again, Ryan Coogler did the same thing. The Russo brothers, they're more plot than character, but we get to see a lot of what they've been able to do as well. So it's got to be in the right hands, man. It's got to be in the right hands. I already know who I want to be the music director, Lorna Balfa, who did Mission Impossible. I need him on the ones and twos with the music and stuff. So we've been thinking about this for a long time.
There's a video for you right there for this platform to talk about your wish list, your TV show or wish list.
Yes,
I want you plus you in order to take you.
Yes, exactly.
But okay, let me look up some more of these. These are questions for fun. I think it's going back to you, but Cisco was asking, do you take things that you scrap and put them in a file, or maybe this pertains to both of us? So for me, I know when I mentioned that I did scrap a couple chapters, it really depends on what's going on in the chapter. If it's something that I can think that I could salvage down the line, I don't mind saving some of that and again putting it into the rolling notes for whatever project I'm working on in the off chance. I do have some of those, but not necessarily. Thankfully, I don't have to scrap too many sections usually, but it does happen on occasion. How about you? Do you?
Same. I remember in the first book, there was a line that I had written in my journal about, when Malcolm and Simone and their powers start to kind of mess with each other. There was a line where I had these two people who were observing that were supposed to say, "We've never seen anything like this ever happen before." And that was one of the first thoughts that I had. I've never used it. When I got to writing it, I could never put that line in place. There was never somebodies that were in an observation room who were observing from that perspective to say something like that. And so that thing got scrapped, and I don't have a reason to ever bring it up at this point because the story's too far gone. There was also a time where I thought I was going to have to scrap a thought because I couldn't make sense for the interaction that these two characters were going to have. I couldn't get it to be logical given how far their relationship had progressed. It was like, it doesn't make sense for them to interact in this way because they're too connected now. And so to make them act like this, like, I'm really gonna have to throw a monkey wrench in here to make it where it's like, bro, like, that's why they're acting like this. And so I thought I was gonna have to chunk it, but over, being able to get through the edits, it's like, oh, okay, here's my end. Here is where if I make this happen here, then it makes sense 3 chapters later for the interaction to be the way that it is because this thing happened here. And so just being able to drop a paragraph or two to put that in there made that thing work. And so again, it really just depends on where the story's going, whether or not, something just gets completely tossed or whether it can be saved for a later date, or whether we can, because even with book four, I've had to scrap a lot of what I wanted to do, because again, it didn't make sense given how far these characters have progressed. So that's why I'm having to rewrite chapters 1 through 9 right now, because the whole idea that I had doesn't make sense. And so yeah, we have to go chunk that in the bottom of the ocean, and it'll never see the light of day. And that's okay, because the character said we weren't gonna do that no way. It's like, my bad again, my fault. Y'all got it.
The stories, the characters, they do take a life of their own, and I say this repeatedly that I have had characters write themselves in. I've had plot lines and backstories all kind of create themselves, and that's one part of the process. I do see a question for me and asking, of my books, which one should I add first? Where do you start? Okay, I'll do this as quickly as possible. I need to figure out those quick little snappy ways to pitch the books, but here we go. I currently have 3 different series. I have a young adult, new adult, and adult-based second world fantasy. So they're all set on worlds that are not Earth, and they fall on the high fantasy side, so we're dealing with heavy magic systems. Now, for my young adult series, I have the Jed Chronicles. I could probably pull one off before it falls off the shelf. It starts with the 12 task stories backwards, and this is a young adult isekai as in portal fantasies, again, set in a magical multiverse. It is quest and adventure-based, falls in the clean fantasy side, starts with a younger age of teenage group, and they age up each book. And it's a little bit of everything. I've been kind of pitching it recently as all my 90s nostalgia growing up has been put some way, shape, form, from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Dragonheart to Beast Wars to all that found its place in this series. So a lot of fun, but it is on the younger side of YA. Now for a little older group, I have my debut series, which is, to go backwards, the Incarnate Saga. It starts with Asar's Claws. There are 4 books in all. It is a complete series, and it is a dark fantasies set in a kingdom on the verge of war where humans and shapeshifters have to decide if they can put aside their differences in order to defend the kingdom against a greater threat. And love that series. And then for the adult and most mature readers, I have The Guardian Speaker, which is a dark Viking fantasy, also a retelling of Nordic myth. Individually, there are 16 novellas, and in physical print, I bundle them in omnibuses of sets of 4. And it is also a complete series, but it is definitely an immersive retelling of Nordic myth. You're going to experience the 9 realms. You will see the flashier gods, but I hold them off to like the last couple novellas. So we're starting with some obscure myth, and the adventure goes from there. The end.
Love that. Love that. That was good. That was good.
That was fun. Okay, so for you, coming back. So the long answer to your question is you pick which vibe works best for you. Because clean fantasy to the dark and gritty. But for you, Eddie, if you could cosplay as any one of your characters, or even just any superhero, which one would you choose?
If we're talking any superhero, it'd be Captain America.
Okay.
Hands down, my favorite. Either whether it be Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, whoever else is gonna be him, that'd be my cosplay, because Captain America embodies everything that I've ever loved about superheroes. He's the ultimate good guy. He's the ultimate save the day person, and then a distant second would be Tommy as the White Ranger. Because again, that's my boy. Again, he was mollywopping as the green. Took the green coin, burned out. He came back as white. I'm like, that's my boy all day, run it. If we're talking my book, I would definitely be Malcolm. Because black and blue, those are my favorite colors. I feel like he embodies a lot of who I am in the things that he's experiencing and going through. And plus, I think I have the body shape for him. I don't think I could be Duncan or Carl. Cause Carl too swole, and Duncan he's military bred too.
They have those full muscles. You just have to get yeah.
Exactly. No, I ain't got that. That's not me at all. So I could probably pull off Malcolm long before I could do anybody else, and it'd be believable. And so those would be the characters that I would try to be. But then if you go into book 2, there's a character by the name of Jason, and I can show you what he looks like really quickly. For those who haven't seen it yet. Yeah, this guy right here in the middle. This is their own little the rogue political faction for book 2. I can't wait till y'all read book 2. But Jason right there, if I could cosplay, probably be him as well. Simply because again, like he fits, and I like his color scheme, the red and purple, chef's kiss, and so I'd eat that up all day.
I also love that. Yeah, Siska here, she knows that like Forks in Georgia and there's Dragon Con, which you should be probably familiar with since having heard of it. So for last year's Dragon Con, for actually one of her events, because she's involved with Dragon Con there, but I cosplayed as one of my characters for an interactive panel, and I chose one of my Viking shield maidens. So that was my choice for a book character of one of mine for last year. But this year, I've fallen in love with talking about superheroes or anti-heroes, creature commandos. And so you may, if you're at Dragon Con, see me dressed as one of those characters.
Nice. I love it. Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to figure out how to get my costume made while you're playing, because I have a person who I'm working with right now. She's talking about wanting to do some kind of some type of cosplay events for us once we start doing the conventions and things. And so having to start doing some research now on how to create a dragon scale costume that, ain't too heavy for somebody like me to be trying to glug around all day. So it's going to be interesting to see how we're able to pull that off.
Hey, if you have not broached the con bracket, even if you're not ready to represent yourself as an author on any of those, because they're, they have some very small ones to all the way the big ones like Dragon Con, as we mentioned a little moment ago. But a lot of them do have cosplay classes as offered and some of the things. So if you go and attend as attendee, you could always prepare going forward. And so just throwing that.
Nice. Okay, thank you for that little tidbit. Okay.
So you'll come out with your dragon scale.
Yeah. I love it.
I love it. And actually that did bring me to the question is, do you do at this point in time, because you have your first book out, I see you on lives, I feel like almost every other morning, you're there, you rock it.
All the time.
Do you ever attend actual physical events, or is it all virtual at the moment? Like when you're
So I actually I've done 2 events since book 1 came out. We did one in November. That was kind of my test run. Because it was the first, because again, this is the first book I've ever written, first event I've ever been invited to. So it's all these kind of firsts where I'm just happy to be here. Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I didn't know. Thank you. So, so the first event was a live reading. The second event was the Atlanta Black Expo, and it wasn't a book expo like I thought it would be. But it became, get the words right, another test run of sorts where we got to practice, selling the book and marketing and walking the floor and doing all the things. And so as I'm beginning to focus more on the book side of things, we are looking for those opportunities to be able to go to those conventions. And so but right now it'll be maybe about 1 or 2 a year. Yeah. So that way we can we balance being able to sell the books as well as getting that exposure. But most of what I do so far is virtual. We're looking at different ways to be able to market ourselves through the various platforms for all the reasons for the trying to sell this versus trying to market that. And so we are looking to become more hybrid than just trying to be heavy on the virtual side, because it's a lot. It's fun, but it's exhausting to be on these live streets every day, trying to get these books sold. So we are looking into being more on the live side, going to the different events and things, and putting on our own events as well. And as soon as we have more of those things set up, we'll definitely put out news flyers and all those sorts of things to let everybody know what we're up to.
And I see a comment in here. Thank you, Siska, saying if either of us, which I actually have not checked this out yet, looked into Continual Con. It's an online-based con that I know she probably knows. She clearly knows far more about it, but I have heard of this one. But it's an online-based con, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Siska, that based on the name, it's one that lasts a long time, so you can kind of jump into it and represent that way. But I've kind of been a little bit, it took me a while to start getting into going to physical events outside of maybe doing a solo book signing somewhere. But I also wanted to release a number where it felt like, one, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was talking about. And so I kind of started doing the panel side of things, being a panelist, and then only within about the last year or so started actually selling at cons. But that was just my way I approached each time. But it's always fun to be able to meet and see potential new readers face to face. I love that. And okay, so question for you. Oh, here's a good one. Actually, the hour's moving really fast, so I don't want to.
I know.
Too much longer. Okay, one more question I have for you, and then we'll go to the basic ones. But for you, having a background as a therapist, does that kind of background help you write your characters in any way? Have you noticed?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. One of the first, once you jump into the prologue, you'll be able to see it. One of the first things we do is a grounding technique for our boy Malcolm. The issues that he has going on, the issues that Simone has, the issues that all of them have. There's a lot of, the therapy elements and those dynamics and the feelings. One of my the last beta reader before I released book 1 said to me, dude, you are a therapist. You are a master of feelings. Why aren't you telling us what these people are feeling? I'm like, bro, that's another 30,000 words. I don't have time for this. But fine. So I had to go back. But she was right. She was right. Like, you didn't really understand, they're feeling, the nervousness is this creeping behind their neck from someone that's coming around and all those sort of things. And she was like, dude, you are the master of feelings. That's all you do. You talk about thoughts and feelings all the time. Use that stuff. And so it is plastered throughout the book. As my, beta reader brilliantly suggested to me, like, dude, use your therapy. Like, this is literally what you do, and you want your people to feel where they are rather than telling them where they are. Make them feel it. And so it's definitely been a part of the process. As a matter of fact, I mentioned this earlier. A lot of the therapy that I experienced in terms of going to therapy, that shows up in the book. Every person in the book is an extension of me in some way, shape, or form. Even the master boss is an extension of me. I tell people when they ask what my motivation is for the boss, and I tell them the boss is who I would be if I had no limits. If I could do what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, when I wanted to do it, and didn't have to worry about consequences, that's the person that I would be. And so every person in the book is an extension of me in some way, shape, or form. And that's a byproduct of the therapy that I went through, because I had to process a lot of my own thoughts and emotions. And I got to use that insight about myself into creating the characters. And my wife, even when I told her that, she was like, man, you know what? Yeah, all these jokers are you. I was like, I know. I know. They are. They are. Yes, 100%. Yes.
The answer is yes. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Because that's a fun question. Anytime I know I'm talking with, because there are a number of authors that have backgrounds in therapy or psychology in some way, shape, or form. I had an emphasis in animal behavior when I was going to undergrad because I wanted to be Dr. Dolittle. So mine is all animal based, but it's always interesting to talk to people who utilize sometimes some their life lessons, the things you learned throughout your life and how you put them into your stories. Now, I know the hour is practically over, so I'm going to try to ask these last couple questions real quick, but in the off chance that this platform is nice, usually it is, sometimes it's not, I'll repurpose this on my YouTube channel in another week or so and put all your content down below so people can hopefully follow you going forward. But for today, where can people find and purchase your books? Are you exclusive through Zon? Do you sell direct? Are you wide?
Oh no. So we do it as many as will allow us. And so what I tell people to do is to go to my bio here on the platform and you will see a finger pointing downward. That's the Affinity Saga store. If you go there, wherever my book is, wherever books are sold, you will find it. So we're with the Zon, we're with BNN, we're with BAM, we're with I sell books on my own on the platform itself, in the Affinity Saga store itself. We sell here on TikTok. We are literally everywhere. So there is no excuse for you not to be able to find my book somewhere.
What formats are they in? So hardcover, paperback?
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a hardback, paperback, and ebook. The hardback, paperback, and ebook. We started working on the audiobook. I realized that audiobooks is not my jam in terms of creating it. So we're currently looking to shop to see if we can get somebody to do the audiobook for me. But right now the audiobooks aren't going to be available like I thought they would be. So they're available hardback, paperback, and ebook. If you order directly from my site, I will sign your book and you will also receive a bookmark for book 1. Book 2 is currently on pre-order. We haven't decided what kind of gift we want to give as a way of ordering directly from me, but there will be something that we will be giving, just like we gave the bookmark for book 1. So be looking out for that as well. But again, wherever you get your books, that's where they are. So go get them. Go get them. They're sitting on my bookshelf right now. They're right over there, waiting for somebody to come and get them.
And I do see Siska saying both Sound Booth Theater and Podium are always scoping out books. That is very true. Some of them, though, they do look really hard at where your ranks are, so be aware of that, but they are very, very, very good at what they do. And also, if you are on platforms like this, check out Audiobook Talk, because there's so many great audiobook people that you can always then reach out to. Go check on the website, see if they're accepting, reach out to someone you like direct, and go from there. So there are lots of different ways to find narrators of all various sorts and voice types. Blah, 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 blah. See, end of the hour, and I'm already getting tongue-tied. Okay, so that's the third question I like to ask is, where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk? Because here in the States, we have a few scares of if this platform is going to be around. So
I know.
You said you have a website, but do you have a newsletter and what other socials?
Yeah. So I am everywhere on platforms. I'm under the same name, Eddie Dee Writes. So Eddie DeeWrites. Wherever you're at, that's where I'm at. So IG, FB, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. Wherever you are, that's where I'm at. I'm actually starting to utilize a multi-streaming platform, and in the next couple of weeks, once we have all of the the pretty stuff put together, we're going to be multi-streaming. Every time I go live here, I'll be live there as well, so you can catch me everywhere, wherever you stream. And so if this does go down, I'm gonna still be up there somewhere. Just a matter of just looking me up, and again, I'm everywhere under the same banner. Thankfully, nobody took it. So I was able to get them all. So I'm everywhere under the same name, Eddie Dee Writes.
I love that. And that makes it it's nice when people are able to do that now. I know not everybody is, because sometimes people take the handle you want before you get there. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. Okay, I think those are my main questions. So unless anybody else has any last minute questions, I'll ask you, Eddie, is there any topic that you wanted to cover today that we didn't cover? Any questions you had?
No, this was plenty, man. I appreciate you for leveraging your platform to let me on, man. Again, I'm grateful anytime I'm able to have any conversation with anyone. I'm more than happy to come back if you ever decide you want to talk to me again. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Okay, right. No, I'm done. I'm through. I'm through.
Yes. I would love to talk to you again. And actually, you should announce one more time your time frame for book 2 because it is coming out.
Yes. So pre-order the book entitled Echoes. This is Echoes right here, book 2 of the Affinity Saga. In the book, Malcolm Simone and their elite defenders unit must stand united against a rogue political faction who in a clash for the soul of Uri City. Will the elite defenders stand united against the colossal juggernaut's assault? Or will the monsters of their past eviscerate them and seize possession of the soul of the nation? It's X-Men meets Captain America Civil War meets True Blood. You can pre-order this book at the Affinity Saga store by again going over to the site and clicking on the button what you see down when it to that down arrow. And then if you order your book from me, pre-order your book from me, we will ship it out to you no later than June 30th in time for the July 4th weekend. The book itself releases on July 4th. We want everybody to have their book in their hands so that way while you out barbecuing, while you on the beach somewhere, wherever you at, you got your book in your hand as we're all reading this book together during the July 4th weekend. So again, check us out at the Affinity Saga store. This book releases on July 4th. You can pre-order your copy now. So that way you can be a part of the action. And again, if you pre-order your copy, it will come signed, and whatever gift we're giving as a part of the like we said with the bookmark with book 1, whatever gift we're giving, you will get that as well. So again, it'll come with everything. We'll have more details about that in the days and weeks to come.
I love that. I love the idea of being able to sell it and send out your personal pre-order so then everybody has it at launch. I love that. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I have a website and I haven't figured out how to run a pre-order through my website, but I'm also very bad about doing pre-orders. I kind of like, it's out, it's available, let's go.
See, that's how I feel too. Like, I want people to read it yesterday, but I'm trying to be good. So I'm saying I'm gonna hold out. I'm gonna be good this time. I'm gonna be good.
You're more patient than I am. But okay, since we have extended the hour, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And like I said, if you want to do this again, I don't host them weekly. I do try to plan them in advance, but I would love to talk to you again because you were so much fun to finally get to meet face to face.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Yeah. Absolutely. No, this is a lot of fun, and like I said, I'm more than happy to talk about books, the writing process, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, we definitely gotta link back up again someday.
That's perfect. I absolutely love it, and I see some of your fans saying huge fan of your work. So. Absolutely love it. But unfortunately, guys, I have to shut this off so I can let my dogs out of their crate and go back to that editing thing.
Yeah, that part.
But until next time, everyone, and thank you, Eddie, for joining. Fare thee well. Bye, everyone.
Yo, take care. Thank you.